folks. If you're farther than you could be, consider coming closer and grouping up a little bit. You don't want to be at a table by yourself. It's okay if not all tables have to be the same size. Yeah, people are probably nice. You can probably sit next to people. And I'll let you actually meet each other later. Yeah, I'm just going to filler while people filter in. Imagine I'm saying something very interesting. Thanks for coming, folks. You can also chat. You don't have to listen to my filler. OK, so we're here for how can we have better online discussions. If you're here for something else, I'm going to disappoint you. Great. I'm just going to get started. People can join. People will be able to catch on. But basically, the idea behind this workshop is we're here together in one place, which is really exciting. I can see your faces. You can see my face. You can, I don't know, we can have spontaneous conversations over coffee or over tea or whatever it is. We don't have to plan what we say and figure out where we're going to post it or stuff like that. And that's really, really great. And it lets you have things that you can't have otherwise. A lot of the time, though, we're spread around the world. That's a map of EA groups that's on the forum. It's certainly not exhaustive. But we are in lots of different places. And so a lot of the time, we are communicating online. And I hope that we can improve the way we communicate online. I think that'd be great. So I'm going to start by just getting a sense for who you folks are and what you're doing and why you're here. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hands. So go ahead and raise your hand if you're in any online EA-themed discussion space. Maybe a Slack, maybe a Facebook group, forum. Great. Cool. If you're not and you want to know which spaces to join, you can talk to me. Who's on the forum? Who's ever been on the forum? Great. Who's ever posted on the forum? Great. No. How about EA Facebook or EA Twitter? Cool. Less wrong? Great. Great. So maybe also you can look around. You don't all have to be looking at me. I'm just raising my hand here. OK. And then how about how things have been going for you? So who's ever had a good online, who's ever gotten something out of an online discussion? I don't know. Great. That's good. That's a good start. Who thinks that online discussions are just great? We're all set. We don't need to improve them. We're just fine. OK. Yeah, maybe someone would have shown up just to argue with people who think otherwise. And who has potentially maybe recently felt somewhat negative emotions due to an online discussion, maybe stress or intimidated or frustrated or just otherwise unhappy. OK, and I recommend raise your hands, look around the room. Yeah. Hello. Go ahead and join. Cool. So I'm hoping we can make some progress. It's been a bit rough. And I'm going to give a little bit of extra context. I failed to introduce myself. My name's Lizka. I work on the EA forum. I run the non-product side of the EA forum, and I also send out some newsletters. And so I really care about making online discussions better. So this isn't just a personal interest, although it is a personal interest. It's also a professional interest. So the goals for this workshop are kind of dual. We want to just come together and share some techniques and just personally get better at getting what we think is useful out of online discussions. And also maybe improve the spaces that we're participating in. Maybe develop some norms, maybe give the forum team some suggestions for things to do, or I don't know, other people who are running other online spaces. And I do want to flag that this is not an easy task. We're not going to fix everything wrong with online discussion in 60 minutes. We're probably going to come up with ideas that are not mature ideas. They're just thoughts that people have. You probably don't know some of the people at your table. You might be a little bit nervous about what they're going to say, how they're going to hear what you're saying. And you're probably going to hear ideas where you're well, I kind of don't think that's useful. I kind of don't think that's going to do much. And I just want to encourage people, like for the next hour or so, just like keep an open mind, let these ideas kind of happen, think about like the good bit that you can, what's a good thing that you can get out of this idea. And yeah, basically this is related to the idea of butterfly ideas. There's a less wrong forum post about it. But yeah, that's kind of the spirit. And maybe also like be willing to hear good things that other people are saying. So kind of, yeah, that's the, yeah, and so hopefully what we get out of this is skills and mindsets, which are not going to be finalized, but hopefully some good starts. Maybe we produce a forum post, not during the session, but in general. And also, again, I learn, I'm here as a representative of my team. I will, in fact, try and get things that will help us build a better forum. Okay, so let's talk about like going forward, what is happening. And I'm going to start by prompting you to think about just like what you see that makes you say, that discussion there, that was a success. Like something good happened there. Yeah, what properties of a thing happening online make you go, great? And go ahead and think about it a little bit, maybe 30 seconds for thinking. And then I want you to turn to someone at your table sitting vaguely near you and like share some things that you see that make you say, that was good, that was useful. So think, and then I'll tell you when to share. All right, we're gonna discuss this more. I just wanna start us thinking about it, and I wanna like gather us back together. So go ahead, raise your hand if you've got a thing that you, wanna share, that you see and you're like, yep, cool. Yes?
Someone's changed their mind.
Someone's changed their mind. Yeah, I really like that one. So mind's changing. Something happened in that discussion. Hopefully closer to the truth. Yes. Yes?
Better understanding, like we understand each other better.
Okay, so mutual, like you understand what the other person was saying.
Yeah.
Great, so like better mutual understanding. Yeah, I think misunderstanding really can hurt discussions and relationships and things like that. Okay, more hands? Yes?
People share what they actually think.
Great. So sharing true beliefs rather than like maybe what you want the other person to hear, or yeah, maybe what you think the other person wants to hear, etc. So sharing true beliefs. That's hard to tell when that's happening sometimes. Okay, let's do a couple more. Yes?
I don't know that everyone likes this, but I like when the top most upvotes are quite consensus. They're not somebody saying like a controversial thing, it's somebody saying something that everyone thinks. And it's like, oh, we've come to agreement on this post.
Sorry, so basically you think that when there is some consensus?
Yeah, or when the top, like most upvoted comments are like consensus comments. Not
Interesting.
Like, you weren't past that comment.
Okay, so,
I don't know that everyone wants this.
yep, okay, great. So one vote, one
Highly upvoted.
highly unvoted. So I'm gonna start by saying some consensus, or like coming to a conclusion, I think is very good. To a conclusion. Yeah, I think like the specific dynamics of upvotes, maybe more arguments with that, but it's good to have things that we disagree about, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah. Let's go for one or two more. Yes.
Yeah, this one might also be
Great.
somewhat controversial, I'm sure. I like when discussions feel new.
Yeah?
So rehashing of the same points over
Yeah.
online.
So new ideas or progress on old ideas or something, or old topics.
Yeah, and the reason I guess that it's almost controversial is that it could still be very valuable for the people in that discussion and for the people who have not seen this before. But if there was a way to design a forum in a way that you surfaced old things
Yes.
instead of rehashing them, that would be good.
Yes. So basically there's potentially a discussion on the same, like covering the same ground is still useful for the people involved. But maybe sometimes it would be better if like older discussions resurfaced, Or generally, like if you have to choose between completely new ideas or covering the same ground for new people, maybe you go for the first. Yeah, I agree that this is good. Sometimes I think it's slightly overrated by people who are worrying that they're going to write something that's an old idea, but yes, I agree. Last one for now.
The information is accessible, so a broad set of people can participate and understand what's being said.
Okay, so the statement was information is accessible, so a broad set of people can understand what's being said. I'm going to make it a little bit more specific, if that's all right. I'm going to say that like the people who hear the information find it useful, or like the people who engage with the discussion understand it. So it's not like, I don't know, a super jargon-heavy tweet that goes viral, because then probably most people just don't understand it, or yeah, probably that would just not happen. But
Yeah, so it's not that we're trying to influence people that don't care.
great, yeah.
It's that people who care and understand.
Great, so participants can follow, I guess. Well, this is well put. Okay, so now, okay, let's see if I had anything else. Topic was important. I do think that one is worth it. Yeah, I'm just gonna, I think actually some of these were brought up. I'm just gonna move on. So now I'm gonna ask you to actually think about you personally. What is a topic that you want to see discussions on? So maybe a question that you have, a confusion that you have, like some research or communication that you want to share. I want you to actually think about this, and then I want you to write it down. You've all got some paper on your tables. I'm like, if I don't see you writing, I know you're not following my instructions, so that's bad. So go ahead, think for a little bit, write it down, then I'll ask you to share with people, and then we'll have a follow-up. But think about discussions that you want to have, yeah, and then write them down. Write down some ideas. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to imagine actually having these discussions. So think about what you do to have them. Maybe you write a post, write a comment, message someone, write something on social media, and then think about what might go wrong. Like, why does this not do the thing that you want it to do? Why doesn't it accomplish its goal? So what's going to make it harder? So think about this for a little bit, and also just share. You don't have to write this down, but you might want to take some notes. So basically pre-mortem your discussions. Okay. Okay, go ahead and raise your hand if you have like something that you thought of that might go wrong. If you need to give context, go ahead, but you don't need to tell me what exactly discussion you want to have, what the discussion that you want to have is. I'm just going to give people time to raise their hands. Yes. Yes. So just share something that you thought of that might go wrong, or like that might make it harder.
You make someone sad.
Yep. Yeah, great. So you upset someone. And I guess this is harder and trickier or more sensitive areas, or if it's more disagreeable. Yeah, that is something that might go wrong, something that might make it go harder. Yes?
So my topics were SPF's relationship to EA, or like EA safety versus safetyism, and like accelerationism versus
Yeah.
EA. And all of those have like one issue that I think we wrestle with sometimes is if it doesn't happen at the time when it's like very current, then you're not going to reach as many people. So like being slow with it is also equal to reaching only a 10 to 100.
Okay.
And then it becomes falsified and you're going against like the cultural understanding that it's already changed.
Great. So what you're saying is that engagement. So what you're saying is that discussions that happen at the time, right after an event or right after something has come up, might get more engagement. And if you take some time to think, then maybe you get fewer people commenting, and also you're already fighting against some settled opinions. I agree. That's the thing that happens, and it'd be great if we can push a little bit against that. Let's go for one or two more. Yes?
When people
Yeah.
And recently I was in a conversation that I decided to make some sacrifices to be part of.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think, I wanted to say something controversial, and it really needed to come from someone in my demographic.
Yeah.
Because people wouldn't have taken it seriously otherwise.
And I guess, so in case someone didn't hear, it's sometimes some conversations are better received, or communications or positions are better received when they come from particular demographics. And that can put pressure on those demographics to participate in those conversations or to express those opinions. And people might not always want that. So yeah, and I guess this is especially problematic when it's minority groups within a community. So yeah, pressure on, maybe minority demographics. Yeah, and I guess there maybe are some ways to fight it, but it is very hard, right? Much like some of the other problems that we've named. I'm sorry, that sounds like a rough experience also. Okay, let's go for one more. Yes.
So it can be hard to find the correct framing. Like there was one point I was asking, how do we trade-off, epistemology versus PR in terms of one of the controversies? And then it seemed like I got the framing kind of wrong because a lot of people were actually concerned more about, direct kind of harm. And so it can be very tricky to find the right framing and the kind of, and figure out exactly where everyone kind of is at.
Yeah, so maybe the right framing for the audience is hard to find. And in general, like with a lot of this, when it's written communication, it's just hard to write stuff often, and it's hard to write stuff carefully. I'm gonna see if there's some other stuff. Like there's also just things in the environment in which we're communicating that might make it harder. So if there's intimidation, or there's stress, or if people are talking past each other, misunderstanding each other, just like lots of problems. And again, these problems are hard. We're really not going to solve all of them. But also, I really hope that we can just start thinking about how we might make it easier to go forward and improve on these things. So we're going to have this in mind as we go forward. If we have time, I'm going to bring us back to these discussions that you want to have and the problems that you think you might face with them. For now, I want us to get together and just try looking at comments on this post. The comments are fake. The post is real. The post lists ways in which cost-effectiveness estimates might be misleading. And I've drafted some comments. And then what I want us to do is go ahead and read the comments. Think about the ways in which the comments are useful or good. Think about the ways in which they might be improved, or maybe they're bad. And also think about how you might respond to the comment to then direct the conversation in a better way. So here's one comment. I don't know if everyone can read it, unfortunately. Okay, so as a reminder, the post is a list of ways in which cost-effective estimates can be misleading. And I genuinely want you to think about what's good and what's maybe bad about the comment, both of those things. And maybe even just try writing a response to this. What would you do to steer that thread in a good direction? So think about it. Feel free to talk to people. And I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Let's come back. What is something good about the comment? What's something useful? Especially people who haven't spoken up yet. Let's go. Raise your hand if you have something useful about the comment. Yes.
I like that they try and elaborate and give a specific example.
Great. Yeah, they give an example, they elaborate a little bit. Awesome. Yeah? Yeah, I love it. Starting the comment with "I appreciate this post," especially when you're giving some kind of critical thing, very good. Super agree. One more thing. I personally think that maybe it's making a substantive point, and that's just a good thing. What could be improved? Raise your hand. Yes.
Yeah, it seems more like something people should just be privately message the person.
Interesting.
Because say Solius wrote the post, and let's say
Yeah.
you made a comment.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who's like who just read the post, is this something I really like care, like something I want to see? Like, it seems like something you just DM to the person and say like, hey, I would change it this way, and they can do it or not if they sort of disagree.
Yeah.
Like, is it gonna like create fruitful discussion afterwards on his original topic?
Yeah.
Everything I would say no.
Yeah, this is a great consideration. When should something be a private message? When should something be a comment? And a lot of cases, especially if I'm like a new person on the forum and someone I've seen writing a lot of posts comments on my post being like, well, I think this post could be improved in such and such way, I might be like stressed or intimidated, or the discussion on that might just devolve about into a discussion about the virtues of that specific approach or something, when I really want people to engage with the content. That's a really good consideration. I don't know exactly how the balance here would work. Maybe there's a like different version of that comment that I would like to see, because maybe it's still a good discussion. But I think the overall, like thinking about this is great. One more, yeah.
You said that a different version of this could be like, oh, why doesn't what is your favorite of these that you think is the most impactful or something?
Yeah.
And that is more proactive, people can answer that.
Great. So the statement was maybe a rephrasing of the comment could be, what is, like the comment just says, what's one of these items on the list that's most important or more frequently comes up? And in general, just like making something that sounds slightly critical more into just a question can be great, right? Like, I wish that the list were organized could become, hey, do you have a sense for like which of these are more frequent or more important? Great. If anyone has a really lovely response that they'd like to share, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll move on. OK. I hope you had some good responses. Let's go for another comment. Similar format. Go ahead. So read the comment. Think about it. Think about what's good about it. Think about what's bad about it. And start talking. OK. Let's come back together. All right. Thanks a bunch. What's something good about the comment? What is useful about it, if there's anything? Yes.
It's communicating a point that is quite worthwhile, and if cost effectiveness estimates really are the best tool we've got. Then not saying that in this post is probably a bad idea.
OK. Yeah, so maybe like just the substance of the comment is a valid, useful point to have out there. OK. Thanks. Anyone else? Yes? It's short. Yeah? There is.
I read the forum, guys. Come on. It's a benefit.
Yep. There is certainly a virtue in being succinct. Great. Anything else? It's clear. Yeah? Great. What could be improved? Raise your hand, especially if you haven't talked. Yes?
I think the way that it's worded is likely to put the author into a like kind of defensive stance. It could be framed in a more like curious way to use discussion. I wonder what it would look like to do cost effectiveness analysis.
Yeah, great. So it's phrased slightly like combatively. It's using kind of slightly emotional language or like negative language, right? Saying that it's really misleading. Where instead you could do something like, I just want to flag that cost effectiveness estimates are really good, and I'm a little bit worried that people might read the post and, I don't know, come away with the idea that they're really bad or that they have tons of problems. Or maybe even say it slightly differently. But yeah, kind of make it more positive. Yeah.
I think it's like asking for scope creep on a thing that was meant to be like very narrow in a way. Sorry. So like, as in the scope of the post was like seems from the title, like seems to be like a low effort. Like here's like a bunch of mind brain that type of stuff. This like improved, like this pushed the needle on the intellectual frontier, and it's like not trying to like do the overarching evaluation of cost effectiveness as a tool.
Great. Yeah, so Angelina's comment was that there was scope creep. So it's asking the post to do too much. I agree. Not every post has to do everything. Like, posts can just be doing a specific thing, like, I don't know, list of all newsletters or something. I don't know. And you can, and yeah, great. Thanks. Another one? Yep.
They're assuming that the author actually agrees with this, right? Like maybe it's not misleading.
Yeah.
Maybe they really think that cost effectiveness analysis.
Yeah. And so they're assuming that the author agrees with the comment. So,
So it feels like there's a bit of moral pressure to.
right. Declare that you agree that cost effectiveness analyses estimates are the best tool we've got. Yeah, you could phrase that as a question. Hey, I got the sense out of this post that you think that cost effectiveness tools are bad. Is that right? Or you could say, hey, I bet that you think that. I might be wrong, but yeah, maybe it's worth clarifying or something like that. Great. Let's do one more.
I guess I'm almost not really sure I would even say like the second half of this post is correct. Because I still like, if this is, if this is on some very widely shared media platform like New York Times, or
Yeah.
maybe somebody hasn't heard of cost effectiveness before, then yeah, just going into all the negatives may be misleading in some
Yeah.
instances, swaying new people into not liking them. But if this is something like DA forums, context matters would prove cost effectiveness.
Yeah. Great. So Tyler says that maybe we just disagree with the second half of the comment. In particular, if the post is on the EA forum, which it is, then probably a lot of people reading the post are in fact aware that cost effectiveness estimates are a cool tool, if maybe not the best, who knows. And like, yeah, if this were a big mass media thing about all you need to know about cost effectiveness analyses, then maybe it would be misleading. But here, it maybe is not. And there are two good things about this. One is considering the context, right? Considering like where this discussion is happening, who is reading the discussion. And two is like accuracy of communication just matters. Great. Last quick comment I'm gonna, sorry, actually, I wanna hear one response. How would you respond to this post, to this comment, to steer the discussion in a productive way? Yes?
Maybe there's a way to synthesize the sort of point and counterpoint that were made about like, okay, there are flaws with cost effectiveness analysis. Also, it's a super useful tool. How do we move forward given those two things? Like, how do we like make the best of the flaw, avoid the flaws and get the benefits?
Great. So you'd post something like saying, hey, how do we get the best of this great tool while also acknowledging that there are flaws or avoiding the flaws? Yeah. Cool. So like steering it into like literally a problem-solving thread. Yeah? Any other comment? Responding to this comment. Yes.
I'll post like meme with someone leaning forward. Wrong.
Great. Thanks for. Yes. Yeah. Of course, we could be doing a different exercise here and saying, what can we do to make this thread go as poorly as possible? I'm not gonna. Yeah. Maybe we could learn some things. For now, let's try this version. So imagine you have this comment, or there are two versions of this comment. Yeah, that's the comment. What is good about it? What could be improved about it? How would you steer the discussion in a productive direction? Go. Okay, I'm gonna speed us up this time. Apologies. The comments are short, so I assume you all have it all figured out. Okay. What is something good about a version of these comments? Yes.
It's really great when we can understand what people think, and like poll comments are really useful. And really
Okay.
no.
Opinion collection is
I think
great.
it's sometimes good to service to people what they think, and like a form of these is to like maybe post both and see which gets more upvotes or revotes.
Yeah.
You can see something about what people actually think.
Great.
I'm
So.
sure no one would hate that. It really knows.
Yes, there are uses for polls. I agree. Yes.
Yeah, I think these are interesting comments actually, in that it depends quite a lot on who they come from. But if it's
Interesting.
someone who is like semi-famous or has very well recognized views
Mhm.
on something, so you can get a lot of info for that. But if
Right.
it's a temporary anon account, it gives you basically nothing.
Right.
It's an upload and downloads.
Right. So what you're saying is maybe the poster matters. If it's someone who you know has done tons and tons of cost effectiveness analysis or something, versus a random account that you've never heard of. And maybe this could have just been an upvote or a downvote. Maybe these comments. Okay, is there anything else good about these comments? Yeah.
Very clear.
They are clear and short.
I think they're too long.
Okay. True, I disagree. Okay, what could be improved? What could be improved? What's a version of the comment that you actually like? Whoops. Anyone who hasn't spoken? Yes. Okay, so that's a response. Say why. Oh, in the comment. Yeah, say why. So, and in fact, just like, I don't even know what disagree with this list totally means, right? Is it the composition of the list? Is it the like existence of the list? Yeah, the approach. Great, so just elaborate. Maybe not always this short is that good. Okay, anything else? Yes?
It's not actually clear what they want. Are they saying like, are they trying to encourage the writer? They
Mhm.
say encourage the comment section. Like I think this could actually be about 4 different things.
Right, so like maybe the person has not thought about what they actually are trying to accomplish by posting this. Okay, great.
I think Ben asked an interesting question before, which was which of these two is more good or bad?
Okay.
And the first thing that came to mind is like agreement seems to imply more content. Like you can agree with the whole list, but you can disagree on so many different
Right.
things for so many different reasons. So
Right.
it's like the disagree carries less information than the
Right, so the disagree comment is more ambiguous. You don't really know what they're disagreeing with. The agreement could just be like, yep, this is exactly the list I would write. Okay, I also liked, so I'm about to ask how could you respond, but I heard well, okay, how could you respond to make it more productive? Great, you could just not respond. That is a totally valid thing that you can do. Disagree. On the forum, there are disagree votes. You could disagree with the comment, or you could, of course, or you could agree. But also, like, yeah, I do think that you could respond. You could say, could you please elaborate on, if it's like the disagree comment, say, okay, is it the composition of the list? Great. I hope that was slightly useful. It was a piece of cake, right? It's easy. Okay, let's go. Let's very quickly try and collect things that stood out as helpful or not helpful. So in general, just like what made sense to you there? What were things that were like, oh, this could have made the thing better, or that was good about that comment?
Do you mean just
In the exercise, or in general?
days of this whole past
No. In the comment, right. So in general, like, what do you think could make these comments say or discussions better? Just think about it for a little bit. We're gonna rush through a little bit of content in a second. And maybe share one thing with a neighbor. Okay, one thing that stood out as a technique that you would like to use. Let's come back together. Whoops, that was loud. what's something that you thought was useful? Yes?
Thinking if there's another framing for the comment that is maybe less confrontational or better.
Great. Just being less confrontational, or like thinking about just rephrasing the same content in a different framing. Yeah? Yeah, I agree. I think like sometimes you just set people's emotions against you, against having a productive discussion. Another one? Yeah?
Framing things as questions, so just trying to clarify rather than making such a direct.
Great. So framing things as questions or trying to clarify, which I think is great. One really good technique, I think, is just like rephrasing what you understood to be the point of the person and saying, hey, this is what I understood. Is that right? And then sometimes it'll turn out that it was not right. And sometimes the person will be like, yes, exactly. And then you can argue with them if you disagree. One more thing.
We agree quite strongly over here that it's a great point that you can be agentic about steering the discussion, that you don't have to just view yourself as a participant in it, but you can help others and
Yeah.
do it in a productive way.
Yeah, you, in fact, as a participant in discussion, can improve the quality of the discussion, or as just a reader. Yeah.
I think a lot of people think about that maybe about improving the discussion that they have themselves in.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like this is going off the rails.
Yeah.
Let's do it in a productive way.
Yeah, I agree. So yes, you in fact can steer. This is one of my hopes of this workshop, that like people come away with a sense that they can, in fact, make things better a little bit. I'm gonna there's some other things I think generally will help. Just being clear, thinking through goals. I think some people just post stuff and they're like kind of just posting it without knowing why they're posting it. Thinking about like, okay, who are the people who are going to be reading it, and like what do they think? Really like trying to genuinely understand their points of view. Also, just I will flag. I think counter arguments, like thinking about what is the weak part of your argument, is great. So these are just pretty generic things in case we didn't think of anything. But also, I want to say that discussions don't happen in a void. So in fact, like if you feel like you're being observed, or if you're in the space where it's normal to shout at each other or something, then they can go worse. And if it's normal to be nice and understanding, or if you expect the other person to be constructive in their responses, then it can be better. So I want to talk a little bit about like what norms we can cultivate in the spaces that we participate in, for example, on the EA forum, and how we can actually put those norms into practice and to have better discussions going forward. So just like how we can build better spaces for our discussions. So I'm just going to start off with a very broad thing. Like, what do you want out of a space? What do you want to be able to expect from a discussion online that you're having? Go ahead and think, share, and we're going to come together. All right, what are some norms or things that you would like to be able to expect that you want to share? Especially if you haven't talked. But if you have talked, I still want to hear from you. Yes? Sorry? Let's come together. Yes?
One of the few things that the EA forum has to evolve the rest of the internet.
Yeah.
Good faith communication is taking us default.
Great. Yeah, so the default is good faith communication. What exactly do you mean by good faith?
Yeah, good question. Taking the best possible interpretation whenever someone says something.
Right.
What do they mean? And again, the most steal man at that point, essentially.
Right. So
And assume that they steal man your point.
Great. So something like taking a good interpretation of what they're saying, of what the other person is saying, not immediately assuming that that they're evil or that they're extremely, extremely misguided, and thinking, okay, maybe even if I strongly disagree with what they're saying, maybe there's a grain of truth that I just don't understand. Maybe there's like something past. Yeah, and that's the default, say, on the EA forum, hopefully. And I do think that helps a lot. And there's like an adjacent thing called steel manning, which is also cool. Yes?
Yeah, bad faith would also mean that you just think the other person is only saying this because of
nefarious purpose.
Speaking out of ego, and it's really not about the truth of the statement at all.
Right. So yeah, the statement was that bad faith could also mean assuming that there's like a purpose to the discussion that's not, and they're not representing their views properly. Yeah, so assuming that people are representing themselves accurately. Yeah, these things are like, hopefully we can expect them, and they make discussions go better. Whoops. Great, one more. I mean, something that's somewhat required for both of these is for people to, in fact, be truthful when they're communicating, right? It's not just about expecting that, like, it's not just about assuming that other people are saying true things, but also, yeah, we want to expect that people will say true things and won't mislead people. There was a hand that I missed. Yes?
Sure, yeah, I guess I think like just to be really intentional with what you're saying, like sort of realize that it's possible to like sort of say hundreds or thousands of people read this, like you're taking like say it like a minute of their time, whereas it took like say, I don't know, 15 minutes to write it. So like, think about that discrepancy and like really try to make it worth their while to write it.
Interesting, yeah. So this was that, you know, maybe thousands of people will read something, and it's going to take you some amount of time to write it, and then it's going to take some total amount for people to read it. And you could, like, if you can easily improve what you're writing, then you're going to be saving a lot of people work.
Also like, you know, expected value, I guess, or like,
Yeah.
like often that means making it short, to be honest.
Yes, making it shorter. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a strong norm, but I do think that's a good thing to do. These are the like something like key norms on the EA forum. Just be kind, staying on topic, which is like, I don't know, don't post spam, don't troll, don't like randomly come like say, oh, you know, you're posting about, I don't know, animal welfare here, but I know that you posted once about your school experience. I'm going to ask you about that right now. And just be honest. I am going to skip this one for now, because one thing I really want to quickly ping is, I think a theme that I was expecting to come out of this workshop, and I think did a little bit, is that having disagreements in particular is a bit harder. So in general, ideas that you might have about like making disagreements go better might be especially useful. So yeah, if you expect to disagree with people, how might you have a better disagreement, a more useful one for both people and others? Go ahead and think, share. Okay, gonna come back together because we're rushing. So I saw a hand over here.
One thing that could help is seeing winning not as changing the other person's mind, but changing your mind.
Great. Seeing winning not as changing the other person's mind, but as like minds change closer to the truth. Yeah?
Yeah, or because you know, our natural instinct is to feel the opposite way.
Yeah.
So, like playing a little game with yourself where like winning the argument being, like the hard thing is to be humble and change your own mind.
Great. Yeah, so maybe we're naturally biased towards wanting to change the other person's mind, so even like convincing yourself that winning means my mind has changed could be a good way to counteract that. And it's related to scout mindset, and is just a great way to make disagreements better. Someone else? Yeah?
You both basically find out what you would need to see to change your mind.
Great. So both parties find out what you would need to see to change your mind. So it's something like cruxes, or being clear what exactly is like the thing that leads you to believe this conclusion that you're disagreeing about, and then like seeing if you can change each other's minds on this thing specifically. One more?
Yeah, I just want to add to that, like the whole double craxing thing. If you have somebody else who also shares that intention of doing
Yeah.
that, then it flips the mood off, and then both of you have the same goal,
Yeah.
and that makes it more friendly.
Yes. Yes, I agree. So in general, also just like upping the kindness level and welcomingness level maybe. Also just acknowledging shared common ground, I think, can be helpful. And also consider taking discussions offline or taking a break from the discussion if you're worried about it getting more heated. I'm going to rush because I have not a lot of time. And I want you to think back to the discussions that you want to have and the things that you were worried about them going, about the things that you were worried about with respect to those discussions. You wrote those down because you did that. So go ahead and look at those discussions and think about whether there's anything that you talked about today that you might try to see if it makes you slightly more optimistic about having those. Or, yeah, generally things that you're more optimistic about. And maybe think about this, share with someone. Yeah. All right, we unfortunately are quite running out of time. So I will reiterate, we did not solve online discussion in this workshop. But the thing I really want is, like, we have these ideas. I think a lot of people just have a lot of ideas about how to improve discussions that they're participating in or discussions that they're seeing. And I think we could do a little bit more work to grow those ideas and, like, embrace the project of trying to make these discussions go better. And just try these techniques. Be willing to, like, be a little bit skeptical of a technique, but try it. And also, you can pass feedback on to me and also tell the forum team how we can improve discussions on the forum. There's a survey link. But also, I have office hours just coming up basically now. And in general, I would love to hear more about how we can improve these discussions because, yeah, we are having them all the time. And, yeah. Thanks all. Thanks for coming.